Josh Hennig here, live on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. Of course, at Josh Hennig on Twitter X platform, as well as Joshua S. Hennig on Instagram. I just wanted to take a little, not a very long video, but I wanted to give you my thoughts because I didn't have a show on Friday night. I was obligated to go to the company Christmas party, so I have to now on a Saturday night before I go home and get ready for my event tomorrow at Doyle's Poorhouse in Tuckerton. You are all invited to come out, join us to watch the Eagles play the Steelers tomorrow, 4 o'clock. We'll do the giveaway of all the prizes at halftime, as we always do. This will be the second to last Eagles watch party at Doyle's Poorhouse in Tuckerton this Sunday. So here's a little quick blurb about that. Although I'm not really sure why that's not working. Hold on a sec here. Oh. It might help if I turn the volume up. So here's a quick... It's probably, it's 10:11 at Saturday night. I probably should be home by now. But anyway, here we go. Hey, Eagle fans, this is Josh Hennig inviting you to join me tomorrow for our 97.3 ESPN Eagles watch party at Doyle's Poorhouse in Tuckerton. Come out for your chance to win Earth, Wind & Fire concert tickets, along with other great prizes we will give away at halftime of the Eagles-Steelers game. You must be present to win at Doyle's Poorhouse in Tuckerton for our 97.3 ESPN Eagles watch party. Come on out to watch the Eagles play the Steelers at 4 p.m. and win prizes tomorrow at Doyle's Poorhouse in Tuckerton. So that gives you a breakdown. Yeah, we'll have Earth, Wind & Fire tickets to the Trans-Siberia Orchestra Christmas performance, and, of course, NJ Lottery tickets. But you must be present to win tomorrow at Doyle's Poorhouse in Tuckerton. All right, so let's get to the nuts and bolts here. I think we've done enough on the prelim side of things. So, really quick, here's the show. Keys to the Eagles game tomorrow, my pick for the Eagles game, and then the rest of the football picks all on my sheet of notes here. So, for those who didn't see the news, I wrote about this at 973 ESPN.com Friday, which is the reason, the biggest reason why I do think the Eagles will win the game tomorrow. And I went into the week thinking Philadelphia was going to lose. Not because of the Panthers game and the quote-unquote drama that went on with that. I thought the Eagles were going to lose just because of the fact I thought the Steelers were the best team they would face the rest of the year. Well, what happened is on Friday, the Steelers ruled out two very important players. Wide receiver George Pickens and safety Deshaun Elliott. So here's the significance of both of those and why this will directly lead into an Eagles win on Sunday. Number one, George Pickens has 40 more targets this year than the second most on any Steelers player. So that means that he is seeing such a high volume of targets. He is a huge key to their offense. How are you supposed to win a game against Philadelphia if you can't score points, right? It's pretty simple. I don't think the Steelers' offense is going to be able, to generate a lot of points just because of Najee Harris and Jalen Warren at running back, or Pat Freiermuth at tight end, or Mike Williams at wide receiver. Though none of those guys are as dynamic as George Pickens is. And so we're going to see how the Steelers can handle an Eagles defense that has been among the best in the NFL over the last 10 weeks. The second player I mentioned was Deshaun Elliott. Deshaun Elliott leads the Steelers in solo tackles this year. So as a result, you're not just missing your number one wide receiver, you are missing your number one basically tackler on defense. And that is a huge blow to a Steelers defense that has been hit or miss on the back end of their secondary this year. They have been chewed up at times. They have been taken advantage of. The strength of the Steelers defense is the defensive line and the linebackers and the pass rush. It's not their secondary. Their secondary is solid to good. It's not as good as Philadelphia. So key number one in this game is you got to get back to the quick passing game. Jalen Hurts had the most success of his college and NFL career when he was getting the ball out of his hands the quickest. The 2 years that he had where he was under 3 seconds between snap to throw was 2019 at Oklahoma and 2022 with the Eagles. Both of those years, he was the runner-up for the most important award in football. In college, the Heisman in 2019, the NFL MVP in 2022. So, to me, it's a simple formula. Get the ball out of his hands. Run those slant routes. Build a game plan that does not have Jalen thinking. I think Jalen Hurts' biggest problem is he's spending so much time processing information that he's on information overload. And it doesn't matter who you are. If you're on information overload, you're just not going to be mentally able to handle what's in front of you, no matter how gifted or talented you are. So I do think that the way to win this game, number one, Philadelphia's got to get back to the slants. 3-step drop, boom, out of his hand. Snap the ball. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, throw the ball. That's the number one key for the game. Number two, Philadelphia's offense has to stay balanced. Just because the Steelers have one of the best run defenses in the NFL does not mean you get away from it. Okay? We have seen numerous games this year where Philadelphia doesn't have a great first half offensively, explodes in the second half. Why is that? Well, it's because you wore the other team down in the first half. You didn't go away from the run. You got to stick to that formula in this game. Saquon Barkley's your best player right now. Not A.J. Brown, not Jalen Hurts, nobody else. He is the most important player to this offense. So if you're Philadelphia, you need to go out there, and if you're going to dominate, if you're going to win this game, if you are going to take control of a game at home in front of your crowd, you got to stay balanced. I know A.J. Brown is frustrated with the passing offense. We're all frustrated, okay? It's been 3 straight games where the passing offense has been underwhelming, okay? But we know what they're capable of. We saw it week 1 against the Packers. We saw it in the game against the Rams. We saw it in the game against the Bengals. This passing offense is very capable of exploding at any point in time. So that's the second key. Third key, do not let Russ cook. That's the saying people have been saying for years with Russell Wilson, the Steelers' current starting quarterback. When he was in Seattle, the idea is when you let Russ cook, he's going to put up 300 to 400 passing yards on you. It is the strangest matchup I can think of in terms of trends this Sunday in Philadelphia. It is the Eagles, who have won 7 straight against the Steelers at home, versus Russell Wilson, who is 6-0 against the Philadelphia Eagles. Someone's got to lose tomorrow. You're not going to walk out of this with, being completely unblemished. I doubt it's going to be a tie. You got to stop Russell Wilson. You cannot let him get in a rhythm. Vic Fangio needs to come out here with one of his best plans. You got to take away Russell Wilson's ability to have time to make plays in the pocket. Now, I don't know if the key is just to flush him out and make him run, because Russ is older now. He's not as young and nimble as he used to be. But we know the Steelers are going to want to run the ball, get the ball to Freiermuth and Williams with no Pickens out there. But I'm not sure if it's a good idea to give Russ time back there and drop back into zone coverage. Zone coverage can get you in trouble if you do it too much. You got to mix in the man. You got to mix in the different looks. Make Russell Wilson earn every yard he gets. Don't just give it to him. In the end, I think Philadelphia wins the game. And I think Philadelphia wins the game because, one, the Steelers are shorthanded. The Eagles are healthier than the Steelers are. No Pickens, no Deshaun Elliott. Important player on offense and defense. Definitely holds the Steelers back. I'm not fully sure if Philadelphia covers the spread or not. I know it's 5.5 points. It feels like an odd number. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. You know me and my math problems. I've said it numerous times on 97.3 ESPN FM that, to me, whenever I see a math problem, it's a signal of something. And while I think this game is going to be the under, it's one of my picks for the game is under 43. And I think Philadelphia wins the game in a 21-17, 21-14 type of realm. I don't think it's going to be the kind of game that you're going to be comfortable with. And that's why one of my other picks is Steelers. I got to find the number again because I know it just changed before I jumped on the stream here. Somebody did something. Somebody made a huge bet on Saturday night to move some of the numbers with the NFL games tomorrow. I don't know if it's a Vegas better. I don't know if it's a New Jersey better. I don't know who it is. I got to look more into it. But I do know that somebody made a bet and it changed some of the numbers at some of the books. So, okay, so the first half right now is Steelers plus 3.5. I got to say, I like that number. If you want to get really particular, Steelers are plus 160 to win the first quarter. We know Philadelphia is a slow starting team. We know there's a lot of close games. So I tend to think that game under 43, Steelers plus 3.5. What are the other books got it at? Yeah, I see a couple of books have it at 3, 2.5. Yeah, so if you can get that 3.5 still, I like that 3.5 for the Steelers to cover the first half. First quarter, I don't feel as great about, but it is, let's see here, plus 160, plus 155. So there's still some value at winning the first quarter for the Steelers. But I think Philadelphia wins the game overall. And by the way, it'll be the first time in Eagles history, that they have a 10-game winning streak in a season. They have never done this before. Now, this doesn't mean they're going to win a championship. This doesn't mean they're going to win a Super Bowl, right? But what it does mean is I think we are at a point now where we got to look at Philadelphia and recognize them as... I was listening to Chris Long earlier today on his Relay Pod, and one of the comments he mentioned is so right. Sports fans and sports media, we are all predisposed opinions of everyone. Whether we like it or not, it's hard for us to move off of an opinion. And I think there's a lot of people, because of last year's collapse, who still hold it against them. Even though there was a different team, different coaches. And people can say all the time, well, it's the same quarterback, it's the same head coach. No man is on an island, is the saying. The idea that in football and all team sports, you don't win a championship by yourself. You don't win games by yourself. This isn't basketball where Michael Jordan or LeBron James or whoever can walk onto the court and slide the odds extremely in their own team's favor. Football is not like that. So, to me, I think Philadelphia winning their 10th straight game is going to be a very interesting test to see, can this team make a run at that number 1 seed? Speaking of that number 1 seed, let's get to some of my picks and my previews for NFL Week 15 tomorrow. So, we gave you the Eagles under 43. One of my picks this week has to do with the Bills and the Lions. This is a huge game for Philadelphia and for the AFC. Let's break it down real quick. Number 1, right now Lions are the number 1 seed in the NFC. If they lose to the Bills and the Eagles win, the Eagles cut the odds of the Lions being able to get the number 1 seed. Also, it makes the Lions more vulnerable in their division. So it's a bonus win for Philadelphia and other NFC teams. I'm not 100% sure who's going to win the game, though, because while I tend to believe that the Bills are going to win, the Lions have won a lot of games ugly, almost by accident, some of them. So that's why I'm way more comfortable with saying Bills at Lions over 54.5. I think there'll be a lot of points in this game, but I can see it ending 2 ways. I can see the Lions winning 33-30. I can see the Bills winning 33-30. So that's why, while I am taking the over in this game, The number I like the most for my
Stone Cold Lock of the Century. All the way.
The Buffalo Bills have scored 30 or more points in 5 straight games. Their team total for this game is 26.5. That is 4 points under what they have been averaging this year. This is a high-powered offense. And we can make fun of the Bills all we want. And I certainly have myself. I have certainly made fun of them for throwing to guys like Khalil Shahir and Matt Collins and a partridge in a pear tree. I mean, they have a bunch of nobodies, basically receiver. But Josh Allen is the league MVP. He's having an incredible season, the best season of his career. Joe Brady deserves a ton of credit. He has taken, ever since he took over as offensive coordinator in the middle of last year, Josh Allen has been on absolute fire. He has cut down on the turnovers. He's become a better decision maker. He's better at processing information. And I think the Bills can score 30 points again against a Lions team that has 13 defensive players on injured reserve. And there's no guarantee they will be healthy this week. I think the Bills and Josh Allen are going to give them problems. And that's why the Bills team total over 26.5, because the Bills have hit 30 points or more in 5 straight games, is my
Stone Cold Lock of the Century. All the way.
Couple other picks in games that I like in the NFL. So
let's get it. Another one. Another one. Another one.
You know me and my team totals this year. I mean, I am Mr. Over-Under, as I've been called by the sportsbook consigliere, Dave Sharapan. So let's go with team total. Indianapolis Colts. They're playing at the Denver Broncos on Sunday. Denver has an amazing defense. They are elite. They are one of the best defenses in football this year. If you really break it down, the best defenses in football this year are the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Broncos. I'm not really ordering them, but the Chiefs, Eagles, Broncos, and Bills. Those are the 4 best defenses. The 5th best, it kind of depends on your personal preference, right? If I had to pick a 5th, see, that's hard. I mean, the 4 main ones are just obvious. I think the 5th one is, I would probably lean to the Vikings, but I think they have some serious flaws on their defense in terms of the teams have been able to find holes in their defense at times this year. But I think the Vikings are a okay 5th team. But the Broncos, as I was saying, one of the best defenses in football. Anthony Richardson, look, the guy is still an unrefined prospect. He does not have all the tools. He does not have the ability to process information very well. Jameis Winston, his arm talent and his intelligence is light years ahead of Anthony Richardson. There is no way the Colts are going to Denver 2,000 feet above sea level, right? And you think they're going to score 20 points in this game? No. Give me under 19.5 for Denver in this game. I don't think, for the Colts in Denver. I think Denver's defense is going to lock down the Colts. They're going to make them frustrated offensively. And that's why I like the Colts under team total 19.5. I don't think the Colts score more than 18 points in this game. All right. For my...
Now you want to get nuts? Come on. Let's get nuts.
2 prop bets I got for the NFL tomorrow. So, here we go. Travis Kelce, anytime touchdown, plus 147. Why? Because the Chiefs are playing in Cleveland. Travis Kelce, Cleveland Heights High School, from Ohio. He's going to want to show out in front of the hometown people. And while the fans are going to be rooting hard for their Browns, they are going to see Travis and have a little bit of a soft spot. And I know the Chiefs are going to try to feed him. When Andy Reid wants to get someone involved in a game, they get involved. So give me Travis Kelce, anytime touchdown, plus 147. The other prop I like tomorrow in the NFL, Sunday, Week 15, Tua Tagovailoa passing yards over 272.5. Tua has been absolutely incredible the last few weeks, to the point where someone like myself, I'm actually playing Tua over Justin Herbert many weeks in my fantasy football league. Ever since Tua came back from his concussion, he has been electric as a passer. Think about this. He has now had 4 straight. I'm selling the guy short. 4 straight games with at least 288 yards. But his passing yard total is 272. So if he's 4 straight games getting at least 288 passing yards, that's one reason why you should like Tua here. Number 2, he leads the NFL right now in completion percentage. He is, again, did I mention he is on fire? Number 3, they are playing at the Houston Texans. So number 1, it's indoors. No weather, no elements to negatively impact Tua as a passer. He's also going against a Houston Texans team that is second to last in the NFL in passing touchdowns allowed. This Houston Texans defense is boom or bust. If they can't get to the quarterback, they let up tons of yards. Okay? You go through the entire season and you realize that there have been multiple games where the Texans defense has been ripped apart by opposing quarterbacks. Dak Prescott chewed them up weeks ago. Trevor Lawrence picked them apart in the passing game. How about that Lions game when they got 5 interceptions and they still allowed the Lions to get 26 points? And oh, by the way, the Tennessee Titans, they scored 32 points. And they're not a very good team this year. The Titans have been an absolute mess. And what made that game even more ridiculous, when the Titans beat the Texans in Houston, it was arguably one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, having one of the best days of his career. The Texans sacked Will Levis 8 times in that game. And yet he still had 278 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, and they beat the Texans. So if Dak Prescott and Will Levis and all these other guys like Trevor Lawrence are going to put up yards and points on the Texans, you don't think for 1 minute that Tua can't do the same thing? Yeah. Give me the over 272.5 passing yards for Tua at Houston tomorrow. And then the Monday night pick I got for you really quick, before we hit the college football and we wrap this thing up. Max Crosby is done for the year. He's having ankle surgery. His season is over. He was the only reason why, if you were a football analyst or a betting analyst or a fantasy football analyst, that you had any worries about the Raiders. The Raiders were a one-man wrecking crew. Max Crosby is one of the best pass rushers in all of football. All of football. And while a team like the Eagles, they have multiple guys who can get after the quarterback, the Raiders really only have one. It's Max Crosby. The rest of their defense it's okay. It's not great. And the Raiders, they're in a tough spot because they spent a lot of money this offseason to try to upgrade their defense, and it hasn't fully paid off. They've had some good games, but not a lot of great games. So no Max Crosby. I'm going to go with the Falcons, 5.5 to cover the spread versus the Raiders on Monday Night Football. And what will probably be a very ugly game. We're probably talking about a 27-17 Falcons win, and half the world will not be watching because it's Falcons and Raiders. So those are the picks for the week. Before we get out of here, a couple college football thoughts I want to give you guys. 2 points. Number 1, I'm watching the Army-Navy game today. And first of all, Navy didn't just cover the 6.5. They won the game outright. One of the biggest upsets of the college football season. But at halftime of the Army-Navy game, you're watching the pageantry, just the incredible nuance of the game. The news comes out that Marshall, the Thundering Herd football team, has pulled themselves from their bowl game. And they're doing it because they have had 35 other players enter the transfer portal after their head coach left to go to Southern Mississippi to be their head coach. They also lost their offensive coordinator, Josh Doege. He is now the Arizona offensive coordinator. And the reason why it's important to bring this up is because this is the biggest problem with college football right now. It's not NIL. It's the fact that the universities and the conferences and the NCAA are allowing these players and coaches to change destinations before the season is actually over. This is a black eye for college football for years, and this is the worst of them because this football program, a Marshall team that won their conference championship, a Marshall team that won 10 games this year, a Marshall team that was pretty much, I don't want to say on a historic pace, but they were on the cusp of having an amazing year. And they were the team that Army was supposed to face in the Independence Bowl. And now, Marshall officials officially today pulled out of the game. I'm reading about this at halftime in the Army-Navy game. One, because I knew Army was going to play Marshall, so I was kind of thinking ahead, and I was shocked by this. But as I said, when you dig into the details, you realize that by the time you get to December 28th, Charles Huff will be recruiting for Southern Miss. You have your defensive coordinator, Tony Gibson, who was just hired to do the job. And the moment he was hired, 35 players put themselves into the transfer portal. 29 of those 35 players are all scholarship athletes. You are losing a huge chunk of your team. The Sun Belt Defensive Player of the Year, Mike Green, he declared for the NFL draft. And there's speculation that he might not play in the bowl game. So Marshall was shorthanded on the coaching staff. They were shorthanded with the players. College football has to fix this. This is an absolute embarrassment. And I'm not going to sit here and blame the players and the coaches for this because it's like anything in life. You let someone do something, they're going to take advantage of it. You give them an inch, they take a mile. You know, it's like raising children, right? I have friends of mine who have kids. And one of the things they always talk to me about is about having rules and restrictions and, you know, some sort of structure for their kids. You know, if you tell the kid you're only allowed one cookie and then you follow through, they will only have one cookie. But if you put the whole cookie jar in front of them, they're probably going to eat all the cookies. And they're going to get sick, and then you got to deal with it. That's what we're dealing with college football. The players and the coaches are taking full advantage of the fact that there are no restrictions on them when it comes to transferring, going to new schools. And frankly, it's a horrible look for a school that just won 10 games. For their head coach, Charles Huff, to leave Marshall to go to Southern Miss. I mean, they're practically, it's a lateral move. It's not like Huff got a job to go to a bigger and better school. So what does that say about Marshall? That the coach and the players are more than willing to just leave your school. It's a horrible look. And I get it. They had a down year last year. I think they went, 6-7 it was last year. But 2 years ago, they were 9-4. This year, they were 10-3. Back in 2021, they were 7-6. So that means 3 of the last 4 years, they had a winning record. Marshall historically has been a good college football program. And for a head coach and 36 players all enter the transfer portal, to all leave, it's a bad look for your university. And I don't know what Southern Miss offered Charles Huff, but Charles Huff should be embarrassed of himself. He built that program into a 10-win football program, and he left for a lateral job. You don't leave Marshall to go to Southern Miss. You know who becomes the head coach of Southern Miss? The head coach of Alabama State. The head coach of Jacksonville State. The head coach of, I'm trying to think of a lower level school, Montana State. Like, schools, the whole point of moving from school to school is, as a coach, you're moving up. You're ascending. You know, Josh Doge leaving to be from OC and Marshall to go to Arizona, that's a step up. This is not a step up for him. So this is a huge indictment on Marshall, and it's a huge black eye for college football. And they should be absolutely embarrassed. The NCAA and the conferences need to get up off their rear, grow a spine, be adults, and go out there and change these rules. It's a very simple change. You tell the coaches and you tell the players, no one is allowed to enter the transfer portal. No coach is allowed to leave their program until the calendar year is over. Period. You can make it January 5th for all I care. But to have all this chaos going on in December, when kids are supposed to be going for finals and kids are supposed to be working toward a graduation, it's an insult to everyone's intelligence. You want these kids to be student athletes, but you allow them to operate like they are free agents as professional athletes. It's an embarrassment and it's stupid. And you look what happened in the NFL a few days ago when Devondre Campbell quit on his team. Every player in the 49ers said, I don't want to play with that guy. He needs to be out of here. The coach says, yeah, he's done with our program. He's done with our school. You just had 36 Marshall players quit on their program that won 10 wins this year. 10-3. Great year. Won the conference championship. And now they're all leaving? The head coach is leaving. Well, where does a guy like Devondre Campbell learn that it's okay to quit on your team? He learned it in college. Because in college now, you are not fostering commitment and loyalty. You are not enforcing the idea of, I made a commitment to this school, I made a commitment to this program, I'm going to finish the year. No, you're creating an environment where people think whenever they feel like it, they can vacate their responsibilities. They can quit on their jobs. They can quit on their commitments. They can stab people in the back. It's okay because I could do it in college. I could do it anywhere. You know, for all the drama with Philadelphia this year, I've said it multiple times. The players have never quit on Sirianni. They love Sirianni. People don't know why, but they love Sirianni. I mean, I know why. It's a whole complicated thing. But obviously in Marshall, nobody likes each other. Nobody gets along, and they're all leaving. Before we wrap it up here, I do see a couple of messages coming in on the YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Since I'm a big fan of the Eagles, 24 season, it's been better. Eagles beat the Steelers 27-14. 27-14. So that still hits the under. Yeah, the over-under is 43. That's 41. So, little You kept up with the sheet. Good job. I just don't know if the Eagles are gonna score 27 points tomorrow. I just don't. I think the Steelers still have a great front seven. Their secondary is injured and banged up, but I think that there's gonna be enough times for guys like Cam Hayward and T.J. Watt and others, Highsmith. These guys will have an impact on the game in some way. And remember, Philadelphia starts out slow every single game. That's why my score was, 24-14 or 24-17 because. By the way, the other concern is, how about Jake Elliott? We've barely talked about on 97.3 ESPN this week because of all the stupid Hurts and A.J. Brown, drama. And then Brandon Graham, putting his foot in his mouth. Just, oh, good grief. But yeah, there's a part of me that I can't even pick these games and give a score because I'm worried that Jake Elliott can't make a field goal. He is 0 for 5 this year from 50-plus yards. Jake Elliott had one of the greatest kicking seasons of all time last season, and this year he has struggled the entire year. So the only reason why I'm not looking at the Eagles to score more than 21 to 24 points is because can we really depend on Jake Elliott to give us points here and there? And meanwhile, the Steelers, they got the best kicker in football. Chris Boswell, he's been incredible this year. I should know he's on my fantasy team. All right, thank you everybody for watching. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Again, I'll be back on my normal slot on 97.3 ESPN FM Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern on 97.3 ESPN FM, right here on my YouTube channel, and of course on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. Thank you all for tuning in. Again, this was just an impromptu, just kind of get my thoughts out there on some different topics on the Eagles and Steelers and more. Have a great night, everybody. Be safe out there, and I'll catch you Monday for game night on 97.3 ESPN.